Okay, welcome everybody this afternoon. My name's Peter Sholl. I'm the International Director of CMS-Australia. And our session today is on preparation and training of missionaries for long-term service. My plan is that I'll talk for 25 minutes or so, and then we'll do some Q&A. So if something kind of grabs your attention on the way through, note it down and we'll do questions after that. Just a little bit about me as we start. I was a missionary in Mexico for 12 years. Went there in 2009 with my wife and 3 daughters. We haven't changed a bit, apart from the fact that she's been married for 5 years and is about to have our first grandchild. She's finishing her master's degree this year and she's getting married in January. But apart from, I'm totally unchanged, right? Yes, thank you, correct. So we went there when they were 4, 7 and 9. None of us spoke a word of Spanish.
Where in Mexico?
Monterrey, Mexico. They all went to 100% Spanish-speaking school. They did pretty much all their school education up until university in Spanish in Mexico. I was involved in theological education, teaching in a local seminary in Monterrey, but also that was kind of my part-time gig. My main gig was doing theological education, running a distance education course from Moore College in Sydney throughout the Spanish-speaking world. So that was what I was doing, and part of that was working with the Anglican Church in Chile and in Mexico. So that was great. I've been back in Australia for 5 years or so. Oh, here we go. This is the class we were studying in Mexico. So, Sam's missionary in Mexico, Roger Griffin, priest in charge in Aguascalientes in Mexico, and various other people.
Is he now head of CMJ?
No.
Okay.
He's still in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Still
doing great things. I've been back in Australia now for 5 years, leading the CMS Australia team. And what we do as CMS Australia is we are responsible for training, sending out and caring for missionaries around the world. CMS Australia originated in the UK in 1799, but CMS Australia became its own thing in 1825. We had our independence. We didn't have a war or anything like that. We just said goodbye. So this year's 200 years. There we go. We have about 200 missionaries around the world working in these parts of the world and others which you can't put on a map. Wide range of people working with a wide range of partners on location. All of our missionaries work under local leadership. So they all go and work for the local bishop or the local whatever it is. They're involved in theological education, student work, local development, medical work, church planting, schools. There's a whole long list of people doing those things around the world. I brought a copy of we do a magazine for our supporters a couple of times a year. I just brought a copy of that if you're interested in finding a bit more about what we do in CMS Australia. This one happens to be about the work we are doing with Indigenous people in the north of Australia, so in some of the remote communities there. That's different. Okay, so the people we send and the work we do are governed by our 4 values, and our values are gospel priority, cross-shaped, long-term, and in partnership. Happy to talk about those later, but you might see some of those coming out in what I've got to say about the way we prepare our people. What I'd like to do today is think about 4 questions, particularly as we're thinking about selecting, preparing and caring for missionaries. And the questions are, what do we look for in missionaries? How do we investigate those things? How do we prepare and train our missionaries? And how do we support our missionaries when they are on location? So those are the 4 questions we're going to look at. Hope those are helpful. So the first one what do we look for in missionaries? Or, in other words, what sort of people do we encourage to be part of our discernment and training process? That's a question we've spent a long time thinking about, and over the past years we've kind of, in a sense, tweaked our answer based on feedback we get from the on-location partners who we work with, the experiences we've had with our own people, and the churches that send them as well. And we've actually got a document that we send to prospective missionaries, and it's a list basically in the form of 10 qualities and criteria we look for in a missionary. So I thought I'd just go through the list because it kind of paints a useful picture of the sort of things we're looking for. So here we go. You have a mature Christian character and strong personal spiritual life. So we're looking for people who are mature Christians, who have learnt to nurture and sustain their own faith and the faith of their families, and have a firm walk with Jesus. We're looking for people who have a commitment to grow in godliness, who are committed to lifelong learning, training, and growing in Christian service. So that's the first one, mature Christian character. And it's interesting, one of the things, as we're doing our interviews and everything, the vast majority of our time we spend talking about character, because that's pretty biblical. The second thing is that you and CMS, or the candidate and CMS, agree in central areas of doctrinal commitment. So we are looking for people who think the same things as we do about God, how he speaks to us, and how he works in the world. If they don't match with us, we're probably going to have a problem. So it's better just to have that conversation. The third one is you have a clear, strong personal commitment to cross-cultural missionary service. So we are looking for people who have an intentional and sincere commitment to serving God in cross-cultural mission, and who have counted the cost of that to both themselves and their immediate and extended family. Costs may include things like educational options for children on location, access to medical care, etc. Okay, so a strong personal commitment. Number 4, you have strong relational and interpersonal skills. We are looking for people who can develop and maintain friendships with other people, can manage and resolve conflict appropriately, and can work well with people who are different to themselves. We're looking for servant leaders willing to work humbly with local partners in mission, because part of our thing is we always work under local leadership. We don't send people out to be CMS missionaries. We send people out to be part of a local group. Number 5, you share a clear fit with CMS values and ministry priorities. So we are looking for people who are able to serve in a way that fits with CMS values and in places where CMS works or is interested in developing future ministry. This means that sometimes in conversation we say, God bless you, that's not us, go and talk to someone else. That's all right. That's a good outcome of a conversation. We don't do that particular area of ministry, or we're not really in that part of the world, but we know people who are. Why don't you go and talk to them? Number 6, you bring the committed endorsement and prayer support of local church or local churches. So we're looking for people whose church is excited about sending them into mission and is committed to praying for them, caring for them, and supporting them financially. Number 7, your ministry skills have been tried and tested in your home context. We are looking for people who have well-developed professional and ministry skills and have demonstrated the use of those skills in their home context. There is nothing magical about getting on a plane that makes you suddenly develop ministry skills. If you don't have those ministry skills, if you're not exercising those ministry skills in your home church, Why do you think you might do them on a new location? So we're interested in your home church experience. Number 8, you are healthy. So we are looking for people who are physically and psychologically resilient, enabling them to serve well and long-term in their intended location. Children are included in this assessment. Number 9, you are content in your current relational status. We are looking for people who are currently content, whether that be married, single, with or without children. And number 10, you meet CMS education and training prerequisites. So we're looking people for who, as well as appropriate professional training, have completed at least 1 year minimum full-time equivalent at an approved Bible college. If someone wants to be involved in full-time ministry or church or student ministry type situation, we will say BTH or MDiv minimum. And if you are going to be involved in theological education, you need the appropriate qualification, which may mean an MDiv, an MTH or a PhD. Basically, the rule of thumb is you have to be one level above the level you are teaching.
Can I ask a question now or before I read?
Go for it.
Do they have to get 10 out of 10?
No.
Does the candidate have to get 10 out of 10?
Fortunately, of these 10,
yeah.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
So if we, in our interview process, if there's a weakness in number X, we will say, you've got a weakness in number X, why don't you go away and work on that for a while and come back and talk to us again? Yep. But 10 out of 10 doesn't mean perfection. Do you know what I mean? In that, yeah. We are looking for people who are in progress rather than perfect. Yeah. But yes, we are looking at all 10 criteria. So that's the 10 criteria. So that's our general kind of, that's the sort of people we're looking for. The obvious question that flows out of that is, how do we investigate those things?
Yeah.
How do you find out about someone? There's basically 2 ways. One is you ask them, and the second one is you ask people who know them. Okay, so that's what we're doing. There are the application process to become a CMS Australia missionary is famous in Australia for being long and complex, and that is deliberate because one of our core values is long term, and when we say long term, we mean 10 plus years. So if someone goes out as a CMS missionary and returns to Australia permanently less than 10 years, we'll have a bit of an investigation and think about why that happened, because that's not a great outcome for us. So we're looking 10 plus years. So to spend a bit of time doing investigation and training is worthwhile. I would guess, I don't have any numbers on this, but my gut feel is I would guess that a normal time period from when someone has a first serious conversation with CMS until they enter our formal training time is probably a year. So that's the interviews and whatnot. They then have half a year in our residential training program, which I'll talk about in a moment. Then half a year back in their home churches. And so absolute minimum between first conversation with us and arriving on location is 2 years. Then most people need to learn language when they're going.
Yeah.
So for most people, time between first conversation with us at CMS and doing something useful on location is 4 or 5 years. Maybe more, depending on where you're going, depending how hard the language is. So there's a whole lot of investigation and preparation and training and support that goes on that time. There's several layers of interviews that people go through, talking to them personally, gathering information from referees, that sort of thing. But one of the interesting variations we have in the interview process is the question of location and work. So there are some people who come to us and say, I want to be a missionary with CMS and I want to go to Japan and I want to do student work. That's what I'm aiming to do. And so in the interviews we'll say, okay, that's great, we can do that. We have people in Japan who are doing student work, but have you thought about theological education in Tanzania? And we'll have a bit of a conversation about that. No, Japan. I want to go to Japan. Okay. It's almost a closed offer at that point, right? So then we start talking to them about their experience and their personality and their willingness to live in a very small apartment and to persevere in learning a very complicated language and culture and suitability to culture, that sort of thing. But then there's other people who come to us and say, hello, I'd like to be a missionary. And we go, oh, that's good. Any thoughts of where you'd like to go? And they go, not really. What have you got? What are some ideas? And at that point, we might throw 15 things at them. It could be theological education in Tanzania. It could be student work in Japan. It could be church planting in France. It could be remote community translation work in the north of Australia. Off we go. And as we talk with them and talk about who they are and who their family is and what experience they've had and all that sort of thing, that list kind of whittles down and we start putting lines through things and eventually we get to somewhere. In all of that, so that's often talking about location and ministry and things, we're really interested in the candidate themselves. Who are they as a person? We're talking to the people who know them, to the minister of their church, to the people who have been in Bible study groups with them, to the people who have been on mission teams with them, all that kind of stuff. We want to know, who is this person in day-to-day life? What is their character? What are their ministry skills? Are they teachable? Are they humble? Questions like that. We want people who have seen them in conflict situations. We want to know whether they are someone who is willing to do the backroom jobs and pack up the chairs and wash up the cups, or do they just need to be the person up the front all the time? We want to know that sort of thing. One of the other great advantages we have in Australia is an incredibly multicultural country. The high school where my daughter teaches, I think there are 45 nationalities at that school. And that's actually pretty average. I reckon within 10 minutes drive of my house, there are probably restaurants of at least 25 different nationalities. That's relatively normal in Australia.
You're in Sydney?
Yep. But you could apply that to any city in Australia. But one of the advantages of that is it's very common for people to have cross-cultural interactions with people. And so we ask them, how do you feel about that? How do you respond in a cross-cultural situation? Are you someone that is kind of culturally curious and interested in what's happening and how other people do things? Or are you more of a black and white thinker? This is right, this is wrong. If they're not doing it my way, they're doing it wrong, kind of thing. We want to get into that. So these questions all happen through 2 stages of interviews, and all of this time we are looking for, is this person a good fit for CMS? And we're allowing them to think about, is CMS a good fit for them? Because it's got to be both.
Right.
Through the interviews, they will get to know us. For example, they'll get to know our model of funding, where is our ministry focus, what are our expectations about kids' education, travel, all this kind of stuff. And we have plenty of examples of during or after those interviews saying, you know what, no, it's not going to work. And that's actually a very good outcome for everybody. And as I said earlier, there are people who have gone through that process. We've identified an issue to say, you know what, this is a bit of a problem at the moment. Why don't you go and work on that? And they do, and they come back. We've got someone going out to Japan in the next few weeks who originally interviewed with us about 6 years ago, and we said, no, here's a couple of things to go and work on. They did. They came back, and they're off to Japan, which is great. So if all the interviews go well, they enter our training process. So that brings us to our third question. Oops. How do we prepare and train our missionaries? So CMS Australia runs a training college in Melbourne. There it is. It's called St Andrew's Hall. It's not like when I was there. So this is an 19th century house, and there was a 1950s block of apartments out the back here, which I lived in. That got demolished and rebuilt, and it's now, well, I call it St Andrew's Resort. I don't think it's very good missionary training at all, but it's very nice. So all our candidates go and live there for 5 months, and that's our training course. So families come from all over Australia to live there for 5 months. The kids go to school. They get stuck into life in Melbourne. Now, for many people, this is the first step of them moving overseas, and it is a bit of a cross-cultural experience. I live in Sydney. This is in Melbourne, 1,000 kilometres away. They're different down there. They're not like us. They play a different sort of football. They use different words for different things. So there's a bit of a cross... No, it's not too much. But people have to pack up their house. They have to put their kids into a new school. They have to learn this. They have to learn that. It's a good initial experience. And because it's residential, the training staff there get to walk alongside them in that process, and they get to see how they are responding to that change and help them through that. So that's a great thing. The focus of the training at St Andrew's Hall is in missiology and cross-cultural living, all focused on long-term service under local leadership. So all the learning is done in community. So the candidates, they have their own apartments in this building, but most of the meals are together, the learning is together, they do various jobs together, that sort of thing. So it's all very much a community-based learning environment. While they're at St Andrew's Hall... Yep.
How many students are there at a time?
It varies. So this semester we've got 5 families and 1 single. Last semester I think we had 7 families and 2 singles. It's, the cohort is about a dozen people, more or less. Yeah. So they get to know each other very well. Yeah. While they're at St Andrew's Hall, each candidate gets individually mentored by an experienced missionary, which is great. They also have to attend a church where English is not spoken, or English is not the language of the church. So we get people going to Arabic churches. I went to a Spanish-speaking church. There's a Dinka church. There's various other churches around the thing that people go to. And that is deliberate. They deliberately go to somewhere where they do not speak the language, and we want them to reflect on the experience of that and what it's like to be in that space where you have no idea what's going on, because that's going to be experience when you go wherever you go. So that's good. They have to do ethnographic studies. I wrote a paper on the dog people of Princes Park. So just across the road from here, there's a really big park area, and we had to choose a distinct group of people and write an ethnographic study on that group. So I went and studied the people who walked their dogs in that park at 5 o'clock in the afternoon every day. It was great. But the purpose of that is to help develop skills in people to observe culture and work out what are the norms, work out how you interact in that culture, that sort of thing. The dog people have rules, I'm telling you. They also have the opportunity to do some research on their location where they're going to, and they also spend time getting to know us. People like me go and teach them about various things we do in CMS, how you talk to churches, compliance, all that kind of stuff. Can we wait till the end for questions now? We're almost there. Their time at St Andrew's Hall is part of the assessment process. So at the end, we have a day-long interview with all the candidates, and that is, yep, you're in, or no, you're not. Very, very, very few people get the no, you're not at this stage. Because if they are on that, no, it's not going to work trajectory, we've had the conversation earlier.
Yeah.
I'm actually, when I go back next week, I'm going to have a conversation with someone there. They don't know that yet, but don't tell them. Which brings us to the fourth question.
Can I?
All right, go.
Yeah. In the training process, where along the training process will it be firmly determined where the person is going to? You're saying that.
Yeah, it's a good question. We would like for people to know where they are going before they start at St Andrew's Hall. That's the ideal.
Okay, so that
because
that's
they're
part of
doing
the interview process. Then.
Yeah, they do some location dependent sort of stuff while they're at St Andrew's Hall.
Okay, so
having said that, there are people who don't know, and that sort of works out in the first month or two.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. How do we support our missionaries when they are on location? There's two very kind of broad areas of support that we offer. The first is that, as I said, all of our missionaries serve under local leadership when they're on location. If they're serving in a local Bible college in Tanzania, they are under the leadership of the principal of that Bible college and the bishop and the diocese that college is in. If they're working student ministry in Italy, they're under the Italian leadership of that student ministry. If they're in a church planting group, they're under the leader of the church plant. Now that is very important for their support, because it means we encourage our missionaries to look to that structure and look to the people in that structure for their support, because they're on the ground, they're right there with them. We don't want them kind of calling home to mummy every second day. We want them to talk to people locally. Now, of course, when they first get there and they don't speak the language, that's a bit tricky, but we still encourage people to do that. The two great enemies of developing good local relationships and good, helpful local relationships are Google and YouTube. Because with Google and YouTube, you can solve problems by yourself. So you're in your apartment in Paris, your hot water system dies. What do? What do? I'm an engineer. I get out YouTube and try and find the video of the model of that hot water system, follow it to fix it. That's a completely hopeless thing to do, relation. What I should be doing is walking next door to my neighbour, knocking on the door, and in my very poor French saying, "Hello, I'm Peter, I'm your new neighbour. My hot water system is not working. Can you please help me fix it?" Because undoubtedly they will know how to do it, or they will know a guy. And so all the time when I'm visiting, especially our new missionaries, I'll say, "How are you going at solving the inevitable problems of living in a new place? Whether it be your hot water system dying, or you need to get your car insurance, you don't know how to do it, or whatever it is, you must ask your neighbour or someone in your church or your bishop's assistant or whoever it is to help you out, because that's the way you build relationships with people." We want people to invest very deeply in language learning and culture, so they can become dependent on their ministry colleagues, not standing over their ministry colleagues in some sort of superior way. It is our aim that when people leave location to eventually return back in Australia, they will be weeping because of the deep relationships they have left behind. That's what we want. I don't say it quite like that to the people but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We want them to so be invested in local relationships that local people are the ones who are supporting them primarily. The second piece of kind of big support that we do is in the form of something called a pastoral care plan, which we have them work on. And this is a document kind of worthy of a seminar on its own, but it's a plan for the pastoral care of the person. Now, that involves all sorts of people. It'll involve their local support. It'll involve their good friend in Australia. It'll involve someone from my office who will be involved in that. All our missionaries are assigned to someone called a regional mission director. So there's 3 of those people at RMDs who work for me in my office. They are responsible for 1/3 of the world each, and they are kind of the point people for our missionaries. All of our missionaries have received an in-person pastoral visit every year for 2 or 3 days, and the RMDs and I do that. So we each spend, 2.5, 3 months a year visiting our missionaries around the world. We stay with them in their homes, we walk with the kids to school, we do whatever they're doing to get to know their life, to be able to support them in what they're doing. We also go and meet their local partner, the bishop or whoever it is, and say, how's it going? We want to develop a good relationship with them. So we want that bishop or whoever it is to be able to say, actually, it's not going very well at all. They need to work on this, and if they don't, could you please take them away? And that's happened as well. So that's an important part. So we're aiming to support the families in what we do in that, to push them on and to encourage them. If possible, those like me who are visiting, my wife comes with me if it's possible, and that is always really valued by the people we are visiting. Interestingly, in preparation for that visit, we send the missionaries a questionnaire of about 10 pages. It takes them several hours to do, and we receive that and read it before we arrive. And the idea of that is that we can kind of go, we really need to talk about this, or we really need to talk about that. And we're not just talking questions in the questionnaire, how's it going? They are very detailed and careful questions. So that's a useful part of that process. The feedback we get from the missionaries about these visits is always very positive, which is good, because obviously it costs the organisation a lot of money to be sending us around the world doing all this kind of stuff, but it's well worth it, and it's a key kind of plank in the raft of keeping these people on location. Okay, I think that's enough of me talking for a moment. Let's go to questions. Yes?
I have a sort of a 2-part question.
Sure.
How can we who are on our outreach or missions committees in our churches, what is our role in identifying people with the right characteristics and then supporting missionaries when they're home on leave?
Yes, that's a great question. And I think the additional thing I'd want to say is, what is your role in identifying people and pushing them out?
Right.
And so one of the great temptations in our church is, I've got Jim here. Jim's just great with the kids. He's running our kids' Sunday school program.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Jim's actually probably going to be pretty good at running a kids' Sunday school program in France as well.
Right. Yeah.
So Jim, we need to get you out there, and we'll raise up someone else. We'll raise up the new Jim. Mm-hmm. Our temptation in church is to say, we need to hold on to Jim, because without Jim, our Sunday school program is going to fall apart. Right? So I think that's part of the encouragement of people. The other thing, and I saw this in Mexico, is you always, you naturally compare what you're seeing with what you know, what your experience was. In Australia, we have a really, really great culture of starting kids in service, in that if you're a 13-year-old or 14-year-old in Australia, it is completely normal, if you're in church, to be helping out in the creche or being a Sunday school assistant, helping the kids in 5-year-old class, that sort of thing. That has a number of advantages. One is it teaches growing Christians that it's not all about them, and that service is a natural, normal part of the Christian life. But it also means they have a great opportunity of developing their ministry gifts. So because there is a strong culture in Sydney of this kind of encouraging kids into service, what that means is the numbers in seminary in Sydney are very, very strong. And not every 12-year-old who helps in the creche is going to end up in third year more college.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying? You start with a very big base and away you go. So I think part of it is encouraging people just to get in and have a go. You know what? The chairs need packing up. Could you do that for me? Rather than doing it myself. That kind of thing. Yes.
Connected to her question, how do you identify these people? Do they apply or go around their leadership?
So my saying is, and I've said this to churches, missionaries don't grow on trees, they grow in churches. So your job as church members is to identify and put people forward. So we have a summer conference that 3,000 people come to for a week. We have 2,000 kids in the kids program. My daughters are leaders. There are 300 leaders on the program for a week. 3,000 adults, 2,500 kids. What they receive at that conference is solid Bible teaching every morning on mission. So every morning begins with a 45-minute Bible exposition. Here's what the Bible is telling us about mission. Then they hear the missionaries talking about what they're doing on location. And there is the inherent challenge in that, going, what are you doing? Are you, is this something for you? So that combined with local church going, let's just keep mission on the agenda, the people then come to us. Yes?
What proportion of your missionaries going out are ordained versus lay?
That's a good question. I would guess probably a quarter are ordained. Because CMS Australia is not constitutionally tied to the Anglican Church, we can easily accept people who are not Anglican, and they can go and work for people around the world who are not Anglican.
Playing back into the initial, how does that flesh out issues of doctrinal agreement that you talked about in the initial interview?
Well, there's plenty of brothers and sisters in Christ who are not Anglican.
Sure, indeed.
So that's how it plays out. So we're not asking people to sign off on the 39 Articles.
Okay. We're
asking people to sign off on the Apostles' Creed, for example.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
So we will ask them, what is the gospel? How is someone saved? If the answer is not Orthodox Protestant, they are not going to go forward. So we are after people who are Orthodox Protestant. I am saved through the blood of Jesus and trust in Him. If that's not the answer, there's the door. Well, actually, we'll say, here's the gospel. Maybe you should think about that. That's the door. Yes.
Are your missionaries needing to fundraise for them to be able to go?
Yes and no. In that we have a fellowship fundraising model, in that they raise money for CMS, not for themselves. So they don't have a target. Which is a bit of a problem for me because I run the budget and I've got a target. I'm telling you. It's an interesting model. It has huge advantages in that there are some people who are better connected than others. Yes. Some people who raise money more easily than others. So that's an advantage. We don't want to say to you, I'm sorry, just because your link churches happen to be in a very poor area, you can't raise the money to go to Japan. Now, the difficulty is, of course, when we have budget pressure, the missionaries don't feel the pain all that much. But they're not raising individual funds. They're raising funds to the organisation, and we underwrite them.
You've talked of maturity, Christian maturity, but do you have a range of beginning years and maybe, the upper limit and the
age limit?
Yeah. Someone 90 can come and join me.
Someone has just gone out as a 74-year-old to the Middle East. Now he had previous experience there. We are going to be asking him to do various things that we wouldn't ask a 35-year-old to do. So he needs to come back and do his home assignment every 2 years rather than every 3 years, just for medical checks and things. And there are various ways we care for him in a slightly different way to others. Because of the theological education requirement, people tend to be just a little bit older. So they might have been to university and then been to college. So our youngest candidates, I would imagine, would be 30.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with gap years?
No, we don't do anything short term.
No.
We're only long term.
Yeah.
Yes.
At what point and in what ways do your regional mission directors engage with the people that are in the process of going to their location?
Oh, that's a great... Yes, they do. So the regional mission directors will get involved with people when they're at St Andrews Hall.
Okay.
So they're down there talking to them about location, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And can you explain regional missioners? These are
The three people who look after the world.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So I used to be one of them. Yeah.
So I want to follow up on that. So,
Yes.
so when it comes to what we call member care,
Yes.
it seems to me that, if I'm inferring correctly, that the member care burden falls primarily on
On
these
the
members,
owners. Yes,
as
correct.
opposed to having a member care department.
Correct.
Who wind up basically fighting fires and
Yes, that's right. That's the R&D's job.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I'm sorry, member care falls on the regional directors? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
What's your connection with other CMS?
We're friends.
Your friends?
So actually on Sunday and Monday, we are having a World CMS
Yeah, because we have
corroboree.
CMS.
Yeah. So there is no formal connection between any of us, but we meet together as friends every 2 years or so when we're at something that we're all at.
Could I return? I think you didn't answer one part of my previous question.
No.
Sort of practical
Might be
suggestions.
deliberate. No.
You're avoiding it. Just practical suggestions of helping missionaries from their background.
Oh, yes, thank you. I think, so when missionaries are back, so in our situation in Australia, for example, I'm just going to reflect on my personal experience.
Yeah.
We had 7 churches that we were linked with. All of them were in Sydney. So CMS owns some houses in Sydney, so we would turn up at the airport, there would be someone there, here's the keys, here's the envelope with some Australian cash in it, off you go.
Wow.
We would arrive at the house, the uniforms of the school are in the house, the house is furnished, one of our link churches has filled the fridge. It's great. Well, but it's that kind of, that is caring for your missionaries.
Right.
Now that costs our organisation millions of dollars. Real estate is very expensive in Sydney, but it's worth it. It's those sort of things that as an organisation we have decided to spend money on because it means people stay on location longer. But there are a lot of little things that our 7 link churches would do for us to help us. So typically we would spend a whole week with the church. So we do Sunday and then Bible study groups and bits and pieces throughout the week. Right? They would say helpful things to us like, here's your calendar, but not both of you need to be at all these things. How about we have a bit of a conversation with you and work out, Pete, you go to this one, Sarah, you go to that one. Because it's just chaotic. And then we've got to pick up the kids from school and they might do that for us. Things like, there's just a lot of use your missionaries wisely when they're on home assignment and work them hard. That you're only getting them once every 3 years, whatever it is. But realise that there's a whole lot of other stuff going on for them as well. And so be reasonable with them. Yeah.
So is that something that you work with those churches as an organization? You teach the churches how to care for their people when they come?
Yeah, we do a bit of that as well. The main thing that we do is we really encourage the missionaries to have a meeting before that week with the minister of the church. So 3 weeks out, just go and have a coffee with the minister, say, hey, we're back, let's go through the program, let's talk about who's going to do what, that sort of thing. The other thing is that all missionaries are different, and some of them you'll get them to preach, because that's their job on location. Others, not so much. You just play to their strengths, work out who they are, and get them to do that. That's really kind to them. It's a good way of caring.
Are they your employees?
No,
by law?
they're volunteers.
Ah.
But under Australian law, volunteers are pretty much the same as employees.
Okay, so what are some of the legal issues you have to deal with in terms of in Australia? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we do have issues in the U.S.,
Sure.
especially if you have to. At the point they become employees, certain things become confidential
Yes.
by law.
Yes, that's
So
right.
do you have to deal with those kinds of things
Yes,
as well?
we have a lot of privacy law type stuff, mandatory reporting type stuff. Yes, in terms of a lot of that, there's not much difference between being an employee and a volunteer under Australian workplace law. The main difference is to do with insurance. So they're driving somewhere to visit a church and crash their car and hurt someone. How does that work out? So we've had to take out particular insurance for that. But yeah, that some people try to play the "Hey, I'm a volunteer." Yeah, no. And we have the power not to buy you an air ticket as well.
When you talk about the 7 supporting churches, these are the churches that support the CMS organization. Okay,
But they're particularly linked with me as a missionary.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, with you personally.
So in Sydney, for example, there are about 400 churches that have links with CMS missionaries.
Got
So
it.
each missionary is going to be assigned 7 or 8 churches to particularly visit while they're on home assignment.
And those assignments are made by the CMS office?
It varies. So they'd say to us, who is your natural network? So I was the minister of a church before I went out, so obviously they're one.
Sure.
There were 2 or 3 others that my mother-in-law went to, whatever, and then there were 3 random ones.
Well, just observation, the thing that really strikes me is it sounds like a very strong culture of mission support in the churches in Australia.
There's
or is it in the church, or how does it work?
The reputation of CMS Australia is excellent across churches in Australia. So over summer, each state will have one of these conferences. New South Wales, Sydney, where I am, is the biggest. But there would be, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people going to week-long missions conferences around Australia.
Just like this, but
Like this, but nothing
bigger.
like this.
Wait. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. What's the connection between the pastoral care plan and the 10-page questionnaire that you use diagnostically on the field?
So the 10-page questionnaire that we used that we sent to them before the pastoral visit, a lot of the stuff from that kind of draws on areas of the pastoral care plan. So they develop their pastoral care plan while they're at St Andrew's Hall, and it will encompass things like what are some of the habits I want to be doing for my self-care. What are some of the habits that I want to be doing for the care of my family, that sort of thing. So the questionnaire will say, okay, well, in your pastoral care plan, you said you're going to run 10Ks 4 times a week. How's that going? And I'll test that out because I'll go for a run with them. I'm a runner, so I can see whether they're lying or not. And you said you're going to listen to a sermon from one of your home churches every Sunday with the family. Are you doing that? That kind of stuff. So we sort of follow up on the things, their aspiration, if you like. And quite often the result of that is them saying, you know what, writing all that was totally unsustainable. I'm going to redo my pastoral care plan. That's okay. Let's do that. Yeah.
Would you be willing to share either of those documents?
I'd be happy to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter, for that presentation. You've talked about the training in theology. So besides that, is there any other skill or any other requirement that the society looks at before considering someone's...
It depends on what they're going to do. So if they were going to be a doctor, we'd probably want them to have some qualifications of being a doctor. Things like, I think generally we would want people to have ministry experience in what they are going to do. So for example, if someone is going to be want to be doing student work in Italy, we would say to them, we probably want you to have some student work experience in Australia. If someone's going to be the assistant minister of a church in Germany, which someone is, we don't want them to be having their first role as assistant in Germany. There's enough things to learn about being an assistant. You've got to do it in your home culture first. So we try and... So there's no formal, you must have done this qualification, but something which will put a pause on people's application, not infrequently, is a lack of experience in what they are going to do. Yeah.
So finally, at disengagement,
Yes.
I've done my missionary work for
Yes.
20, 30 years, and now I'd like to retire back home.
Yes.
What happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I welcomed someone home who has been in Argentina for 40 years. So they're retiring in Australia, but their life changed. Their life is just going to go, that's a total... that's okay. Probably the harder people to resettle in Australia are the ones who have been on location for maybe 15 years and are coming back and they're looking for a job. What job are they going to do? For the ordained ones, it's a bit easier. We can generally find them a ministry job, although our advice is do not take do take a parish job, but take a 2IC job. Take a second in charge job. First, when you're first back, take a 2IC job for 2 or 3 years. This allows you to settle in, work out the system, whatever. Then go and be the rector of the parish.
Got it.
So, but that is a great.
If someone is cognitive, they can do some voluntary work, but they are in their 80s or 70s and they just like to settle in a retirement home. What exactly happens?
Yeah, we'll help them with that.
Some benefit or...
So we provide something. So there's two things in Australia. There's a thing called compulsory superannuation. So it's like a pension fund. So we pay into that. But also, we provide something called a resettlement allowance. So every year where they're serving, we just put aside a bit of money for them, and they get to spend that when they come back. So, for example, when I came back, the amount of money in my resettlement fund was enough for me to buy a car. That's what I used to do. So we applied for that. I think we're not yet. So one more go.
Following along in this, so what do you do in terms of helping people think about the fact that they might live long enough to have to be able to retire?
Yeah, that's a question. That's a conversation we often have on the pastoral visits. Yeah, that's true.